YouTube. So I'm thinking this is going to be, if you've never played the guitar before, just a really, really super basic, not leaving any string unturned, any page unturned. The things you're scared to ask is, I'm getting this way a little bit because of looking up the internet, especially Facebook groups. You get an awful lot of people who know everything, who don't know anything, who'll tell you things so super, super basic. So basically, even if you're thinking of buying a guitar, watching this is probably quite handy before you go into the guitar shop to try one, or whatever you're going to do. So it's a copy of a Fender Stratocaster. This is what the reason I'm playing this is what everyone thinks of as an electric guitar. Especially here in the UK, most of the guitars you see look like this, pretty much. There's variations of it, you get all different colours and stuff. But this is kind of talking about the stuff that I didn't know when I started playing the guitar. I used to see Hank Marvin, basically. I used to be into the Shadows when I was a kid. He played one of these. His was red. But there are arguments for the colour makes... The guy from the Smashing Pumpkins says that pink guitars sound different. But yeah. So basically, this is wood. By the way, I didn't know guitars were made of wood at the time. Obviously, I knew an acoustic guitar are the ones that you can see are made of wood, but the ones that are solid colour are pretty much all just wood as well. You do get, 1 in 1,000 is plastic or carbon fibre or something fancy, but generally, guitars are wood. This is an electric guitar. An acoustic guitar, the other kind of guitar, looks like this. Now, this actually looks like a toy, but it's actually quite good. So, the sound from this one, it's all hollow. So basically when you play chords on it, I've not thought about this in advance, the sound comes out of there, and this is how loud it is. This is, they're normally bigger than this, so they're normally a bit louder, but there you've got, so that's an acoustic guitar. This is an electric guitar, so when you play this just now, that's how loud it is. Not that loud, hence why it's an electric guitar, so you need to plug it into a speaker, an amplifier and a speaker, in order to get it loud. The principles are the same, the chord shapes are the same, the strings are all tuned the same, so basically if you can play one of these, you can play one of these, and vice versa. The difference being, on these, you have to hold things down a little bit harder, and obviously you don't have a volume control if you want to play it quiet. You hit the strings gently. If you want it to be loud, you batter them. You hit them harder, which does make a bit of a difference in an electric guitar as well, but not as much. So anyone who only plays electric guitar gets a shot of acoustic. All the notes are in the same place. It's all set out. Everything's the same. It's physically, they've normally got like a slightly wider neck, and you have to hold the strings down. It's got slightly thicker strings, so you have to hold them down a bit harder. Whereas an electric, the neck's generally a little bit thinner, and you can bend the strings because they're a bit thinner. You can bend the acoustic strings, but it's much harder. Also, you'll notice that when you're playing an acoustic guitar, just like a typical one, it's difficult to play the notes higher than that, because your hand hits against the body. So you can get to them, but you have to kind of come over the top, and that's obviously not very easy. Whereas on these, there's a thing called a cutaway. So this is cutaway, so you can get your hand right up to, so you can play these notes relatively easily. Not relatively easy, I very rarely play up that high, but yes. So total basic principles, this was only meant to be 5 minutes long. Total basic principles. There's also a thing called a bass guitar, the other type of guitar, which sits here. This one, obviously they're all painted funny colours and stuff. You can see this being pretty much very similar to this, apart from this has only 4 strings and they're thicker, but they're still tuned the same. So if you're playing an E note on that guitar, it's the same as there. On the bass guitar, just the bass guitar is an octave lower. I will get to octaves. That sounds difficult. So basic. This is the body of a guitar. This bit, the body. This is the neck. It's the same for the acoustic. Most of the parts are the same. This is the headstock. These are the machine heads, they're called, which are basically you wrap the string around it and it brings them up to whatever tension you want. It's the same principle as this. Some guitars have 3 on each side, some have 6 on one side, doesn't matter, they're still tuned the same. But the parts are kind of the same. There's the body, here's your neck, this is called the bridge, where the strings go in the back here, on this guitar. Sometimes they're held in with pins. There's various different ways of doing it, but this is still the bridge. And the bit that the strings actually go over the plastic bit there is called the saddle. So on a guitar like this, it's a little bit different. This unit here is the bridge, and you see there's little metal blocks that the strings go over that you can adjust. They're called saddles. The principle here, which I'm going super basic here. The principle, which first time I played a guitar, is I didn't know this. So basically, when you hit a string, open it rings. I'll turn on the amplifier so you can hear it. I've just plugged into. This is actually the amplifier I'd recommend. This is a battery powered one. A Roland Microcube. I always have to turn it off because I'm running it in batteries, and I don't like the idea of it sitting there using up battery power. And then having to change the batteries. So, they're clean sounds. Right, basic as you can get. There's your note. So that's your string. When you shorten that note, as in you hold it down, for example, on this one with the spot on it gets a higher pitch because the string's not as long, and then if you slide it up, it keeps getting higher. That's not that. I didn't realise you had to hold the strings down, but you have to hold the strings down. So to tune, these strings are all tuned to different notes. They're all different, but there are only 12 notes, which is totally mind blowing, and we'll worry about that later on. But there are only 12. It's kind of like this note is the same as this note. Well, you just have to accept that it is, even though I know this one's much higher. But it's like that's like so. The way that's the same note when you're playing the bass guitar, it's another one down. So basically, it just goes A B C D E F G, A B C D E F G, A B C D E F G as it gets higher. You'll see that if you look at a piano. You know, it's like basically you can play the same thing here or here or here or here. You just repeat yourself exactly all the way up. Same principle on a guitar. The thing about a piano is an A here, lower down will be A, and then the one higher up will be that one. Whereas on a guitar, there's lots in different places. So you get that's low down, high up, but there's also one there, and there's also one there and there. These are all just A's. Yeah, so it's just basically the same 12 notes. It's just because on a piano you can press any one at a time, so you can hit the two notes that are next to each other on a piano. On a guitar you can't, because if you want to play that note and that note at the same time, well, you can't because it's on the same string. So if you hold them both down, you only hear the higher one. So what you do is you play that note somewhere else there. So you get, those are not two strings you would want to play together at the same time. So you play them on different strings, the two notes, or go for a more sensible one. You know what I mean? Yeah, I kind of okay. I'll finish this off. Just try to keep these short. It's not easy. So see these metal bits? They're called frets, and that just means that when you're playing your note, halfway is there, you've got a metal note to. So you're definitely right, because obviously you could just have, if you have no frets, like a violin or a cello or something like that, if you slide your finger up, it'll just go boo. So in order to get the boo, you've got to find exactly the right note, whereas this one, as long as you play it there, it doesn't really matter if you're a wee bit, see what I mean, it's going to play that one, that's always going to be right. So when basically you slide this up, it goes, it plays all the notes, rather than being ooh, which it, and as it is in one fine swoop, which it could do. You do get fretless basses, and some mad people do fretless guitars, but it's much easier to play with frets. Where else are we going? Right, so we've got the thing. This is the neck. The fingerboard is the bit where the frets are put into. Normally, or quite often, if you look in these guitars, some of them are like a darker wood, sort of rosewood, and the lighter wood's generally maple. Doesn't really matter. You'll see, because it's an electric guitar, I've got a volume control here, so no noise. Noise. You can turn it down if you want. To be honest, I kind of use that more for turning it down when I'm talking. And then you turn it back, or when you put it down, so when you put the guitar against the wall, it doesn't go bong and just ring forever. You also get these are they're called pickups. This is part of the electrical circuit. So you can get sound. It's basically just a magnet with a wire wrapped around it that comes out this cable here, goes into your amplifier. You've got a volume control in the middle, and there's a lever switch. You've got 3 of these pickups. So this one is a sort of sounds like that. If you go to the middle one, which is this one, it's brighter, and if you go to the bridge one, which is this one, it's even brighter. Or really, whichever one you like the sound of better. It's good, especially if there's another guitarist. If you're using that one, then you use that one, so that you're not both sounding exactly the same. You can hear each other. You're both playing slightly different sound. That's kind of the principles of how an electric guitar works. There's no electricity going through it. Don't worry about that. It's like very absolutely tiny voltages that you'd never get a shock off or anything like that. So there's no danger in it. There's no actual electricity going through it. Well, there is. Like if you look at it now, like your 9-volt battery, if you put your tongue on it, you get a shock. That's 9 volts. Take 1,000th of that. That's how much electricity is actually going through the guitar. The amplifier has electricity in it to take that very, very, very weak signal that comes out of the guitar, and just make it louder. Hence, amplify. So I think I'm going to... These were only meant to be 5 minutes long, but I'm going to go for that as lesson 1 and all the bits you should really need to know about guitars. I suppose principles, I'll talk next time, I'll talk about the different types of guitar. But ultimately, as I was saying there is an awful lot you can do on one of them. It kind of doesn't matter. It depends what it is you're trying to do. But something like this, you'll see Stratocaster. I was going for Hank Marvin, Eric Clapton, that, the sort of clean, all that sort of stuff. But it also will do your Megadeth and stuff. You get that's just going straight into the amplifier. Most amplifiers, modern ones anyway, will have a thing called distortion. So when you put it on distortion, I'm sorry, don't turn down a bit. You've got this sort of, So this is not the type of guitar that Metallica play, but they could easily play one. Actually, that's the guitar there. Actually, James Hetfield actually plays the exact same model. But they can all sort of do everything. Same with you can't play Metallica on an acoustic. It's the same notes, I just can't remember. That's it. I'm playing exactly the same there as I am on this. The principles are all there. They're all exactly the same. And this is a whammy bar, which you'll see on some of the guitars I've got. Not all of them have it. Don't necessarily need it, but means you can go, which everybody wants to do when you're starting to play the guitar. You have to be playing for a couple of years to really understand how to use this thing, because if you're too brutal with it, it just puts the guitar out of tune. So I suppose next episode, start with a bit of tuning. See you in 2 minutes.